Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 595. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zoner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, we're talking PowerSlave Exhumed. More on that later. Matt, I want to know, what other historical time period needs a Doom clone?
Historical time period. Give me oh man. I'm trying to Dude, the answer here's the fucked up part. The answer's going to be on the list this year. It's not a time period, it's a type of genre, more Bloodborne related. But it's not a time period. I'm trying to think of an answer to it though, to fit that style.
For the listeners, viewers out there, I'm cheating and looking at the list that you can't see quite yet. Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. I gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give you an answer. I feel like we need a Salem witch trials era. Whatever that era is called. The Salem witch trials? Is that what we called it?
Sure.
But I also don't know, like, when does Hexen take place? Because I might just be thinking of Hexen.
Hexen's not that. Hexen's not that.
All right, fair enough.
Take it from someone that did some research for my picks this year.
Oh, that ain't the one?
No. The one I'm talking about, it's the one we're playing in October, which I know we're far away from, but we're in the same territory.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of that one. Okay, all right.
Yeah, are you thinking future man?
No, I forgot what we've got coming up in May. So I forgot what that one was.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think that might be something different. Yeah. Anyway,
Touch different.
Stay tuned for May. All y'all out there. I will say, if you're listening to us here at the top of February, only just a couple more weeks left until we kick off our spring season. So stay tuned to thefreecheese.com. Check out the sidebar on any article, and you'll see the upcoming schedule. On once spring hits, man, you're going to see all the way through the end of May everything we've got planned. So stay tuned for that.
Dude, March is, oh my god. Dude, spring's bangers.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Spring's going to be good. What's the idea, right? Like, get through the cold of winter into the warmth of... we've had some good stuff so far, though. Last week's game... Not so much. If you missed that last week, let's just say we have a new bottom of the list. I don't think we're going to have that this week. This week with PowerSlave Exhumed. Matt, when did you first learn about PowerSlave?
So I confused this game with Heretic Hexen. I thought it was that IP for the longest time. It wasn't until Night Dive did the remake, or not, I keep saying remake, it's the remaster, that I realized it's not Hexen Heretic related at all.
Yeah.
So I guess like it I've heard the name, but I didn't know it stood out from that, and it was what it was until Night Dive.
You think Night Dive is working on a Hexen Heretic remaster right now?
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked. Not
Would you
at all.
play it?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably, I would play it.
So we're playing PowerSlave Exhumed. Why are we playing Exhumed? Why did you pick this version over another? And more importantly, why is it called PowerSlave Exhumed?
So I don't know why Exhumed unless you know, and you were trying to lead me to something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know it, but so this goes. So what? I'm sorry. I'm looking ahead on the calendar. One I can maybe reveal my hand here. It might have to wait till summer to reveal the true inspiration of what I'm doing here, but it falls in line to what I kind of said a couple weeks ago with Titanfall 2, where Doom is an inspiration for games. This one's more on the nose, obviously, than Titanfall, but I'm cooking something. You'll probably see it in summer. But with Doom as inspiration, the main thing here was this. What the other gentleman that built the Kex engine, was it something Silverman, right?
I don't remember.
Oh, I pulled the
Yeah,
name. I had the name at some point. I apologize.
I got you. I got you.
But the
Hold on.
gentleman in or no, sorry, not Kex. I'm mixing up my engines now. When I'm on
X
the
is the
spot.
Night Dive engine.
Yeah, not.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm mixing up my my stuff here.
Oh, you're thinking of? Are you thinking of like the
Build. I'm
3D
thinking
realms?
build. The build engine. Sorry.
Got it. Okay.
I can't remember his name. Anyway, I he
Ken
was
Silverman.
Ken Silverman. So he was pretty much a John Carmack to the build engine. Um, and so that was like there are Doom clones, right? I wanted to see a Doom clone in the build engine, and I think this is earlier build. Um, maybe not so early, but earlier compared to some other stuff that we might see later in the year. But yeah, no, I want it. Honestly, I brought up Hexen and Heretic, and you brought up before me, like, Cutting Room 4 games, it was either PowerSlave or Hexen, and it was like a coin
Oh
flip.
wow.
It was a coin flip. But yeah, I ended up going with PowerSlave, and I think it's mostly because of the remaster Exhumed, because it brings in. So the PlayStation 1 and Saturn versions of this game are different than the PC version. They play more as a Metroidvania. And I kind of accidentally fallen into the year of Metroid, I guess. Wanted to see what a Metroidvania Doom clone might look like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of why we landed on this one for the list this year.
The name actually, so it comes from a couple things. So in America, North America, the game was released as Power Slave. In European region, it was released as Exhumed.
Right, I did know that. Thank you for ringing the bell.
In Japan, it was Seireki 1999, Pharaoh no Fukatsu.
Got it.
Um, they dropped that title, but instead combined Power Slave and Exhumed. I assume just to make both sides happy. I will say that when you try and look up anything about this game or learn more about it or just bing around a bit, it makes it really hard to find stuff because it borrows its name from a Megadeth album. But yeah, I've never thought of a Metroidvania shooter at all. And yeah, incidentally, the year of Metroid here at thefreecheese.com. Didn't intend for that. Probably should have put another tentpole game out for Metroid, but so developed PowerSlave, Exhumed, developed by Lobotomy Software, published by Playmates Interactive Entertainment for the Sega Saturn, PlayStation, and MS-DOS. First released in North America, it hit Europe first, but in North America, December 31st, 1996. Back of the box. And I'm reading from the Saturn box, North American Saturn box here. Power Slave. Welcome to the nightmare of Ramses' tomb. Destination, the ancient Egyptian city of Karnak. Alien forces possessing horrifying powers have sealed off the once thriving community from all outside contact. As a covert operations specialist, you have been trained for all forms of contingencies. Nothing can prepare you, however, for the nightmare you are about to enter. Features: first-person viewpoint action, 20 plus levels of non-stop gameplay through an ancient Egyptian city in the tomb of the pharaoh Ramses. Real-time, fully 3D rendered gameplay allows you to move between multiple floors within a single level. Within is bolded. Cross bridges, crawl through tunnels, and swim through underwater grottos. With just a machete to start, search for 7 other weapons, including Amun bombs, a flamethrower, an M60 machine gun, and a magical cobra staff. Dynamic lighting creates stunning visual effects. There you have it. We, playing the Exhumed version, PowerSlave Exhumed that is, which was released for Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S on February 10th, 2022, published and developed slash ported by Night Dive Studios. So you talked a bit about it before, a little bit of what PowerSlave Exhumed is. Um, what are the like immediate differences jumping into the first bits of this game when you've booted this up? Like, how did this meet match differ from your expectations?
I mean, it's Doom. I mean, it's a Doom clone first person shooter, right? But I think the immediate thing is just like the Egyptian aesthetic. Like literally, first level, you're going to Ramses' tomb, where he's kind of assigning you your task for the game. And
Yeah.
like the weapons, for the most part, kind of um play into that. Kind of like how we saw already with Daikatana, in each of like the areas have a different weapon set that kind of match its area. I mean, you're more so kind of going through various areas based on like the Egyptian, the Egyptian kind of time frame, as you would. But yeah, like it's. I think that's the first thing that pops out, right? It's like you're not in hell, or you're not on Mars about to go to hell. Like the colors are more yellow and gold than red and black.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like when you added this, in fairness, and listener, I think you'll see this kind of in hindsight or in future sight as we move forward. But like the stuff that Matt added to the list this year was not just unexpected in terms of like I didn't see it coming, but like not all of it lines up with like not that you even have like a typical thing you add to the list, but you just kind of stretched in a weird direction this year, which and I always say weird fondly, so don't misinterpret that. But yeah, like this one, it's just like you hit a lot of weird games that like I'd literally never heard of this game before. Don't know how. Like, because enough of these, you're right. Like they come up in conversation, they're out there. Like you just kind of know there's this string of things that were inspired, but there's so many of them that they just get lost to time. But like, I completely missed this Night Dive release. Like the top to bottom. I had no idea this game existed until you added it. There's this. There was like, I think you ended up having like 3 or 4 games on the list that I was like,
There's
what?
one I know for sure that was like I know he's probably never heard of this game. I'm excited to put it on, but that's for
Yeah,
later.
no, I think there were like 3. Like you really like hit a weird streak. Um, and with that, like I came into this knowing, you know, Doom clone, period. I did not expect like even with Doom clone, like it doesn't quite feel like it does feel like Doom, but not entirely. Like it's definitely its own thing. Um, I think the one of the first things I noticed, and maybe this is specific to Exhumed, maybe they had this in the original, but like you are able to look 360. So like that right away, I'm like, oh, okay. Um, but yeah, the more you get into it, like within the first little bits of it, and you realize, oh, I can't jump up that ledge. I gotta go somewhere else now. I gotta backtrack. Like that's the big, I think, like difference I noticed pretty quickly. Um, of the Doom clones that are out there, besides Quake, I guess. What other games have you jumped into from this kind of thing? And I guess, yeah,
Uh,
barring anything we might play later.
Um, honestly, even including the stuff I we're gonna see later in the year, I haven't jumped into a lot of it, which is why I kind of have some of that on here. I have touched a Duke Nukem game. I would say I have not played a lot of it. I honestly have probably played more of that Duke Nukem Forever masterpiece than I have an actual like original Duke Nukem game.
Yeah.
Um, but like I've touched them briefly, but like I have not played a lot of like the quote unquote Doom clones. Maybe besides Chex Quest as a kid.
Oh, yeah, sure. Do you feel like you would like a Doom clone? Or, I mean,
I don't know what you mean.
obviously you've played this. I don't know. Like, okay, I guess how much experience do you have with Doom itself? The
So I mean,
proper original Doom.
I played Doom. I have not finished Doom 1. I've never beaten it, but I played through a major chunk of that game before putting it down. And I like the genre. I like this weird. I don't want to call it stiff because I used stiff a lot last week, and that's a totally
Different meaning.
yeah. But like I like this like fast paced like first it's not first person shooter, but back like with that feel from back in the day, where it's like the gun centered and you're running and gunning and like I don't know. These play fast and they're hard, but they play completely different than a first person shooter today. And I don't
Yeah.
know I don't know how else to describe it without really like in terms of gameplay without obviously bringing up the visual style.
Yeah, because there is that like, uh, it's not isometric 3D. What's the term for it? It's like that.
I don't know it either. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
the
yeah. It's got the Doom look, right? Like it's
right.
got the uh it's the thing where like it's technically not 3D, right?
Right.
Like it's still 2D, it's just everything's drawn in a way. So I used to know the term for that. Um how about Doom mods? Because I feel like not PowerSlave per se, because obviously PowerSlave uses a different engine, but there are a lot of games that ended up becoming full experiences because they were Doom mods first. What's your history like with those?
I don't know a lot. I like that list. I probably don't know as well as I should. Consider what I'm picking this year. But no, but I have seen like I've gone not full rabbit hole, but I've definitely seen some. I think more the more like popular mods. I think like the house mod is
Yeah, yeah.
like a good example. Those might be more modern per se than than back in the day, but that's my experience with it. It's like the more popular ones, but more so like that has stayed as like you need Doom to run it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you typically like if you're gonna sit down and play a game, like you want a full experience like something like Power Slaved, or have you I don't know, have you ever just spent time screwing around with stuff? Like 'cause I feel like
Oh
Doom mods can often just be like
no, I am not. I don't know what you're
one-offs,
asking. No, I
like
mean
play a stage and that's it.
no, I've never really gone down that rabbit hole of playing. I mean, like I said, I barely scratched the surface on like stuff I've seen on YouTube and videos along that. But like, I have not launched the executable of Doom and browsed through mods or looked at mods to download to play through the executable.
Yeah, no, I've like done a bit, but never not as much as like is out there. I
Like,
think the modern Doom ports that are out there that I think are actually Keck's engine. Speaking of which, but that stuff that came out not too long ago, um, those have made it a lot easier to browse and use mods on a console, which is cool. Otherwise, like I've got a little bit of experience grabbing WADs and dragging them into folders and launching that and changing directory, all that nonsense you got to do to get those to work. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I like you. I have the appreciation for this old school style. They're a different feel, different flavor, but also I don't know. I don't know if I prefer one over the other. That versus like a modern FPS. But there's something cool about these. I think for me, the thing that about any of these older style games that stands out is that there's always a sense of exploration. There's a ton of secrets, and there's a lot of like mazes and wandering, and the levels feel like big and fun to explore. So for me, Power Slave Exhumed, Power Slave specifically, like it not only does that idea, but like that's the whole crux of it. And it's in a setting that is historically filled with mystery and magic and stuff. So like it's exciting and naturally inviting. Like it makes you want to go and wander around and see what's behind this door, what's over there. If I, oh my gosh, I blew up that wall and now I can get back. Like there's all of that stuff in this game. Outside of that, what else do you think makes Power Slave different from other FPS games?
I feel like with the kind of the jumping off point here, and one of the main reasons for picking Exhumed is the Metroidvania stuff, like the backtracking. Um, and it's not like you say that and you think I think you obviously think of Castlevania and Metroid and how they handle those. Like it's different here, and really there's only a couple levels you're revisiting with another exit or whatever. But I think the main level here that you keep going back to is Karnak, which is like the first level. So kind of when a game starts, you go through a little bit. I thought I made a mistake picking this game immediately when I found the spiders as the first enemy, so that was fun. I thought they might be later. No, that was just enemy number one. I was like, cool, great. Anyway, but you kind of you fight through the tomb area and you get to Ramses and you essentially some kind of quest. Hard to hear him weirdly enough. We'll get into that later, but
Yeah.
he sends you on your path, and then the next level is Karnak, and you'll see that Karnak is very meticulously designed, where like you get to like this hub area, and there's like three different directions you can go, and some of them like you get to something immediately, and you like see it's like a high jump or something, or it's just something doesn't seem right. There's like no connected area, or like you see like there's this path to swim underwater, but if you try to swim, you're gonna die immediately because you don't have like your breath doesn't hold you don't have enough breath. So it's like what's going on here? And then you eventually find an exit, and then you'll go through like the linear like stage to stage design, and then like along the way, and I'm not saying this happens in the first bit of it, but like along the way you might see a stage where it's like there's a door I can't get by because it's green, and then like you kind of forget about it because you just can't go that way. So you keep going, and then finally you get like a power. And then you go back to Ramses, and Ramses is like, all right, you gotta go in this direction. And then you go back to Karnak. And then you're like, well, I was just here. And then you discover, oh, wait, I can now do this in that section that I couldn't do before. And Karnak ends up being like the hub for this. And you kind of go out on a path. And then finally, like, you'll get the power up to get through the green door. And you're like, oh, wait, right. I remember that green door in that path. Let me go that way.
Yes.
And that's kind of like where the Metroidvania stuff's at in this game. It's not totally like there's an area 1 and area 2, and you go back and you get more missile power ups, and then you go back around and you get a super energy, like, a more super missile container. Like it's not that.
Yeah, it's not, yeah. No, but it's like now I have sandals so I can jump, or I can double jump, I can float.
Yeah, right.
You bring up the backtracking. I think that makes me want to. I know we're still early, but I want to lob my one major complaint with this game, and I truly think I only have one major complaint with this game. It is that when you go back to Karnak, or when you leave an area at all and you return, even and especially if you leave that area thinking, yeah, this is the right exit, I'll leave. And then you're at the main map and you're like, that wasn't it, I gotta go back in. Every time you return, so in each stage, there are 4 golden door types. It's like the Earth, the Time Door, the War, and the Insect. I know it's an insect logo. I don't know if it's insect is the thing, but it's 4 different things, right? There's these little gold keys that you find in each area, stage, whatever. Those correspond to each of those doors that you unlock. And the levels are meticulously designed so that you need to move your way through each area, find those keys, find a way forward, find the next key, keep going until you find the exit to get to the next point on the main overworld map. And in Doom fashion, and I promise I'll probably maybe stop comparing it to Doom, in Doom fashion, like if you go into E2M1 and you collect the red key card, the blue key card, the blah, 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 those don't carry forward into the next level. If for some reason you were able to go back to that same level, you would probably have to collect them all again. The problem is that in Doom, you don't go back to levels, right? Like this, you are going back. Those other games, they're one, done, move forward to the next one. That's the only part that sucks for me with it being a Metroidvania style and that search action, if you will. Going back through these stages to like getting there and like, okay, I'm back. I know exactly where I've got to go now because I remember everything. Oh wait, I gotta go get the insect key. Okay, I gotta get the time key. Okay, I got like you've got to do a lot of those things, and I feel like my playtime ended up stacking a little bit just because of those things. Where if I go back to an area in, I don't know, Castlevania, Hollow Knight that I've been to and I've already like got the thing for, I've got the thing I can just go right through. It's like my one. What did you think of that? Did you lament that? Did you not even notice? Where were you at on
I
that?
mean, it was a touch frustrating, I would say, maybe to do that. I don't think it really bothered me at the end because I think the way Karnak plays, especially when you get into it so much, and I think this is where a play could differ, right? Like if you somehow in the first two trips to Karnak got from point A to point B successfully and didn't go down the wrong path, I can see where the frustration maybe starts to creep in. I think I think trip 2 or 3, I could not find the exit that I needed,
Yeah,
and I ended up exploring a lot of Karnak, and because I played this game like relatively quick, I played it most of it I think in the course of 2 days. Like
oh
I
yeah,
remember Karnak,
yeah, yeah,
so like
yeah.
once I got a power up, I was like, got it, know what to do, and I would do but. And as the game progressed, you saw like more enemies started popping up in Carmack too. So it wasn't like it was like the exact same. There were different little curveball challenges thrown into it. The Wasp, like they're not in it the first trip there. They come later.
Yeah, no.
I think other stuff comes too. So like I could see where Karnak becomes a problem and like trip 6 to it. But I think I just kind of got used to navigating Karnak so much that I kind of got to point A to point B a little mindlessly, knowing that was the path.
And I did, yeah. I definitely had moments where I would like get lost or turned around in a space, and I'd leave preemptively, or I'd be like, oh, maybe I went to the wrong spot on the map. Maybe I should go whatever, and like, yeah, it just slows down the flow a little bit. But that's like it, man. I don't think I had many. There's a couple weird platforming things where like you really have to be specific with your jumps and like when you decide to commit to the float and when you all. But like generally, I did not have a you know bad time with this game. A couple like things that just like made it like slightly less than perfect, but no, it was solid. What about the weapons? So you start with, as the back of the box outlined, you start with a machete. But my first gameplay note while playing the game I wrote down was, "I've got a gun." So I think you get a gun pretty quickly.
You do.
Um,
You go as machete, then pistol, and then actually you get a DM60 afterwards. You kind of don't
yeah,
come back to Egypt until the fourth weapon, the Amon bomb,
I'm
Amon.
on bomb. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I. So yeah, I guess let's do that. Did you have a favorite weapon?
I think the M60 was my bread and butter for most of the
Okay.
game.
Same. Yeah, same. Like, and it tormented me when I did not have ammo for it. Um, what was your backup when you like couldn't use that weapon?
I want to say, oh, the Ring of Ra was unique and fun in some areas, especially when it got
You have to
chaotic.
remind me of which, because a couple of those last ones with the hands, I don't remember the names of. I just remember what they
I'm
did.
pretty sure that's the one that launches like the mini fireballs.
Yes, that one
Like
was cool. It just kind of like
it's pretty much a machine gun full of bouncing fireballs going around the
yes,
environment.
but
Uh,
the fireballs have like ricochet effect, so they just
correct.
bounce all over the
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think they can hurt you.
I tested that. I don't think you. I think you're
Oh, okay,
good.
okay. Um, That and dude, the Cobra staff was weird. It's just
I
a
like the Cobra
cool
staff.
weapon in theory. I didn't use
Yes.
it much, but yeah.
I
Uh,
used it underwater when piranhas were chasing me.
mm,
I used it I especially used it in the last level or like that last area against those enemies because it was very easy to stand far back, get them in the line of sight, fire it off and then duck away and like just let it auto target to them. Yeah, that was something. I found myself like if I ran out of ammo with the M60, I'd grab the pistol and I'd try to shoot pots to get ammo back for the M60, and that was my main hook. Depending on the enemy type, maybe I'd do a flamethrower, but it was yeah.
yeah, I mean, it became one of those things, and the early game, I really you could, as long as you had M60, you were fine. But like towards the end of the game, especially, you were kind of starting to get forced to use all your weapons, and so
Hmm.
I started discovering like all right, I'm encountering this enemy. I know how to deal with it using this, so I can conserve ammo for this because I'm seeing a lot of this enemy here. Like, started playing those mind games a little bit.
Uh, Picking up ammo. What'd you think of the ammunition and health refill system in this game?
That was unique. With the correct me, I'm forgetting now. You had to switch to the weapon you wanted the ammo for, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's spheres you find in the stage. They're either orange or blue, and they're either big or small. The orange refill your health, the blue refill your ammo, and yeah, they refill the ammo of the weapon you're holding. There are two like ultra power ups that refill all health and refill all ammo across all weapon types and whatever, but those are usually like they're predetermined in a map somewhere. Like you find them very
Yeah.
specifically stationed. Where the rest of the stuff, it's like random drops from breakable objects in the area or enemies you defeat, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Was there an ability that you unlocked that made the game finally feel like PowerSlave to you?
That's a little question because I don't know what PowerSlave should feel like.
What I mean more in that is like this game obviously by the end of it feels like its own thing. It is its own thing, but I feel like early on I was so keen to just compare it constantly to Doom. Uh,
Okay. The separator then.
like what's the thing for you where you were like, dude, this is Power Slave?
I don't think I ever had that moment, but I,
No?
I I mean the artifacts, right? Once you start stacking them, I think is the separator because that's when you're going back to oh my god, I've said it 80 times already.
Ramses?
No, the level, the
Karnak.
Karnak. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
That's when you go back to Karnak and you go and explore a new territory and you start doing that. And I like those times where like you could see the dead end in a level and you're like, oh, I'm definitely coming back here. It's just a matter of when, and when like you get that power up for whatever reason, you remember that moment in the level. So
Yeah.
I think the artifacts is when it starts to stand out. But I think the enemy types too, because you're fighting monsters, not really like Doom starts with the. I mean, you get the monsters, but like start with like human, like the
Adjacent. Yeah.
yeah, like the zombified or the monster fight. I don't know what the term is for Doom. I don't know the lore that
Yeah.
well, but whatever the Marines that are corrupted with, you start with them first. This you start with
Um,
spiders and scorpions.
Traditional Egyptian fare. Speaking of Egyptian fare, looking a little bit at how the game looks, do you feel like it represents like what you expect of Egypt in a video game?
Yeah, I wouldn't I I wouldn't say anything negative about that. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. What do you think?
Yeah, like we don't, you or I have an innate knowledge of the reality of Egypt, but in terms of how Egypt's been represented in media we've consumed, I feel like this
Yeah.
kind of grabs those like tropes and puts them in a game well enough. Like it is what I expect. Like I think that I, I should say, I don't expect that anywhere in Egypt looks anything like any of the areas in this. But in terms of grabbing the like color scheme, the like incorporating the use of hieroglyphics in the walls, things like that, I think that this fits what you've come to expect of Egypt in a game.
Well, maybe the last couple levels don't. Okay, that's my
No,
only.
but for good reason too, right?
Yeah.
I guess speaking of those, like, do you feel like the game ever gets difficult? Did you
Yes.
have a tough time?
The end.
Yeah.
Those last once the pretty much from the moment they're called the Magmantis.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm glad you looked up the name because I did not.
Once the actually the cover boy kind of appears as an enemy in this game.
Yes.
It gets hard. Like just
Yeah.
dealing with that enemy alone, and then you're put into situations where there might be multiple of them, and just kind of going from there. It gets hard. I don't have the names of the enemies that come after that look like locusts, but
Yeah, I don't remember those either, but yeah. I do feel like generally the only thing that like gave me trouble really was I don't know, like it really I think the only thing I've written down was like the some of the weird jumping. Like in Selkis Path, you have to jump backwards. And I guess you don't have to, but the easiest way I found in that section was to jump backwards, kind of blindly. There were a couple few areas like that where like you kind of have to jump around a blind corner and turn and land and like there are some things that like just you know I remember there was one point where I was trying something over and over again. Like and I finally got it, and I was like, I screwed that up. Like, I don't know how I pulled that off, but that was not the intended way to do it. The next time something like that happened, I was trying similar things, and it was not working. And I was like, let me look this up. And I'm reading through, and it was like, nope, you're doing it right. You need to be perfect. And it was like, okay, let me do this again. But otherwise, yeah, it was not I think in terms of combat, I never had a super tough time. The tough time came when you'd run out of ammo, I think.
yeah, and I like looking at my notes here, and I don't have actually I don't have a lot of notes per se, but like I the end of the game got hard because I think more things became bullet sponges, and I was running out of ammo, so I was having to rely on things I don't want to use to deal with stuff. And I think
Yeah.
I think that's where the difficulty spike was, because even the final boss, I thought the final boss was cool, but like not
Yeah.
hard.
No, I ran around in a circle until it was dead.
Yep,
Like I just kept
typical
circling
Doom
it and
style.
shooting.
Yeah,
That's it. I did the like I kind of ran through. I think I had a few weapons run out of ammo in that fight, but generally it was just like go, okay, I'm out of ammo, next weapon. Oh, okay,
yeah,
dead.
yep.
Yeah. So, uh I think we hit all the gameplay stuff to cover. Jumping a little bit more into the way it looks and feels, etc. Do you feel like things were distinct enough moving from one area to the next?
Yeah, and it kind of had to be because we'll get the sound. If you can hear Ramses, he's telling
Yes.
you where to go. That's how you know without looking at a guide which direction to go, especially once you kind of exhaust all obvious avenues from
Yeah.
Karnak. Because at some point you will hit all the X's of Karnak, and you will have to deviate from one of those later levels, one of those exits that you may have found earlier, and get out that way to get to the next progression area. So like he will say, go
He's
over
never
the
clear.
river. It's some essentially paraphrasing, if you can hear him. Go over the river through like the marshlands or something to like the top of a volcano, and you kind of look around the world map and like, oh, well, here's a river here. I was like, oh, that might there might be an exit here. I think I saw. And then you go in and you find the exit, and then like the next level you like see the base of the volcano like out in the distance. You can see there's like two stages
Yeah,
or
it's
something, but like
creeping.
you like okay, this is the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think because of that, I think going from stage to stage, it does stand out. Um, enough to make it work and not boring,
Did you ever
honestly.
was there a favorite level or section?
Yes, I made sure to write this down too. The Troth Treasure Reliquary.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
So the to describe it, if you haven't played this game, you kind of start and there's two paths like immediately once you walk into like the structure, and I forget which way you go, but essentially you have to go one way, and then you get like the aforementioned system that you were talking about, where you get one of the keys, and then you end up going back to the other side to unlock the door, and you go a little bit deeper, and then you get the other key, and then you go back around, and you do this enough, and you get to the point like, all right, why do I keep going back and forth? And then you realize these levels have been crossing over top of each other the entire time as you're descending, and then you end up using that to your advantage to unlock later doors instead of having to go back and forth. I
Yeah.
immediately was blown away by the level design of that one, and that was one of the ones that had an exit that I saw immediately. I was like, why? I know I gotta get over here.
Right,
When
but
can I come
how?
back?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was really impressed with especially like some of those middle levels, the way that the design started to like weave together really well. And I think that's something that is important in a game like this because it's like it's not just the like what you're shooting, where you're shooting, but like that layout and like the flow of gameplay is so important in this, and like that's what makes all the best of these types of games stand out because it's just like it feels right to move through where the secrets are to find them, the flow, all of that stuff just feels like natural. And when you can kind of like tune in with the game, it just it clicks.
I mean, the later levels with some of the navigation, and you kind of said it with like the floating and having to like take these corners blind and stuff like that. It's not that the level design's bad. It's just you're kind of it's the difficulty's ramping up at the same time. So it's not just like you're floating with no, safe as can be. Like there might be the magmantises like all around these areas, and they're just picking
Yeah.
you off, and you're trying to figure out the path, and you're doing a lot of backtracking and stuff like that to figure out where to go. And there is in the Exhumed, I'm assuming. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But there, in the Exhumed version of this game, there is like a map system you can bring up
Yes.
that has like the vector-based stuff that you're
Yeah.
familiar with from a Doom. So like you can use that, but like good luck in the later levels because it's so condensed that it's kind
Yeah.
of tough to
It's
make out.
a lot
Um,
of stuff stacked. It's also like checkpointing in this game is very
yeah,
spare.
yeah,
Spare. They're
yeah,
used sparingly. Like you will hit them and like there's one nice thing where like all the checkpoints are not they're just little beetle icons and all you have to do is pass over it to activate it. So sometimes depending on the level, there might be two beetles rather close to one another. You can make significant progress and just run backwards to another one just to like trigger that you've
yeah.
okay, let
You
me get a
cleared it.
save going where I've got all the stuff I just did. Not perfect, but it's a way to make it work.
And sometimes, I mean, that serves to like the shortcut aspect of the game too, with some of the level design. Because like, what will happen is like you'll get a beetle, your checkpoint beetle or whatever, and then like you'll make a right and you'll do this like weird puzzle platform section. And then like it's to the point where it's like, all right, well, obviously if the door is locked to the left, let me go out, do this puzzle, and then it ends up like looping you back around. You unlock the door and it loops you back around, and it loops you like right in front of the beetle, so to make sure you hit it as you go into the unlocked door. So there's some
Yeah.
clever stuff that they do with that checkpointing system.
Yeah, that's fair. Enemy designs. Anything you thought was particularly cool?
Like I know I keep saying spiders. They're really not spiders though. But are these the original crab heads, dude?
They might be. Yeah, those
That
things
was
suck.
that was immediate. Like, oh, it was close to crab head design. The piranhas are fucking annoying.
I did hate the piranhas.
Those mummies are bitches.
The mummies that shoot the red snakes
Yeah,
at you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They were. Um,
Those are brutal.
I,
The Anubis wasn't too terrible. but the cheetah head, I forget the name of the cheetah
A
head.
Bastet.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, those I hate. They just charge at you and destroy
Relentless.
you. And yeah,
There's
they're,
isn't
but
I
they're cool.
I think it's in that level, the one I mentioned, the Troth of Reliquancy or whatever. Isn't there like a
Yeah.
room? There's like 5 of them in there. And it's like an
uh,
intense ass little fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Um,
relentless.
because they also like fade into the ground and then come back. And yeah, it's brutal.
But I mean, on
Um,
any of the Mantis forced encounters are like there's one level. It's if it's not like the third or second to last level, you get dropped into a pit, and your
yep.
only way out is to defeat them.
Yep.
And if you're dropped in that pit in a bad situation, you may want to reload a save because it's
I got
tough.
so lucky right before that and I'd loaded up something and I was able to, I don't remember what it
Oh,
was, but like kill the one and just keep moving. Like I had a really good save right before that. So it was
I
good timing, but yeah.
it was one of those like I think I got a little hard headed. It was like it was borderline like man I'm not in the best situation, but it's not like I can take only one hit and I die. It was like I can take like one
Yeah.
or two. So if I can figure out to like a lot of my trial and error came in that fight on how to deal with them because I need to figure out a way to take them out quick and the best method to dodge their attacks.
Yeah. I
Um,
like with those two, like the way they just sort of bubble beneath the surface and you're not quite sure where they are, where they're going to come from. And then all of a sudden they're there and they're
the only thing
just
that
attack.
kind of stinks about that, I think that would have been a cool like surprise, motherfucker. Like, and they're on the. It's pretty obvious they're an enemy based on like all the cover art and stuff for this
Oh,
game.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you
That's
knew
fair.
they were coming, and they're everywhere in the trailer. So that's the only sad part. Like once I got the lava, I was like, all right, where are these fuckers at?
Yeah. The game takes a shift toward the end there, where
Yeah,
you're
that's one way of
not
putting it.
really fighting. I mean, it says it on the back cover, I suppose, but you're not fighting just Egyptian lore anymore. You are fighting against the quote alien forces possessing horrifying powers. So I think we're introduced to the Killmot as the main enemy type we're fighting, kind of in the final few stages. What do you think of the shift to that versus the traditional like Egyptian setting and some of those more
It was
whatever?
it, it was honestly, I think it was the kind of the breath of fresh air that the game may have needed at that point.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it changes the color palette for the first time in a while. Because you always kind of come back to like the sands and the gold and the browns that you kind of associate with Egypt, right, or classic Egypt. But I the level design, I mean, it was still tough in those levels. It still got weird in some of the things you had to do. But I like the change up. I don't, lore wise, I was kind of half paying attention to the lore because I could half hear Ramses. We'll get to that. But like that's about the. I don't know. It was a breath of fresh air and a new enemy to deal with. Like I didn't hate it. I nothing wrong with it.
No, and I think it plays into that like conspiracy theory behind aliens helping to build the pyramids and all that. You know what I mean? Like it leans into a little bit of that kind of stuff, which is always fun with me. Well, speaking of sound,
I'm trying to. I just want to remind myself of a picture of that. I'm trying to find one. But like, tell me if I'm. They're like. Oh my god, what's the plague? What's the ones that eat all the crops? The bugs that eat crops.
in real life,
Yeah, well, the Bible define real life.
locusts.
Yes. Do they not resemble locusts? And is that like a play on the actual like event in the Bible?
Oh, it might be. Yeah, it might be a little bit deeper than I'm giving it credit for. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Especially, yeah, Egypt. You're talking like Old Testament stuff or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, old Moses.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't.
Um, but yeah, there's right. All of this stuff kind of loops into one another at a certain point. Um, but yeah, your lovely King Ramses.
What the fuck happened to his sound? Like, why is it so quiet? It's not even like it's quiet. It's just distorted too much.
Yeah, I never relied on him, and I got to a point where I just when I'd load in there, I'd skip and just move on, and because I figured more often than not, where you're supposed to go is the next arrow on when you know
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah. When
but
you see that, yeah.
you couldn't always rely on that. And sometimes that's what ended up leading, I think, to a bit of my frustration with the weird backtracking because I'm like, oh, I bet I have to go off that left side. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
there. So one, Ramses gets off on a terrible foot with you because that lore dump. Oh my god! I felt like I was sitting there for 10 minutes. It wasn't
Yeah.
10 minutes. It felt like an eternity though.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of you got the first taste of gameplay. You got that. This is fast, first person. This is one of those, and then you're stopped for an eternity. Something again comparison to Doom. Something that like Doom never does, man. Doom just sends you on your way.
Yeah.
That's like the only thing. So Ramsey gets off on the bad foot there, and then like I don't mind the like being told where to go from him. It's he's too distorted on top of being slightly quiet, and I messed with the audio settings as best as I could. I could not figure out anything to make that better.
I don't know that there is. I think the idea with that is like they had uh I know that what's his face was in the game. He might have been Ramses. Let me double check. But the guy that did he was the movie trailer actor. You know what I'm talking about? The Inner World. Remember when you used to have like good movie trailers back in the 90s and they were all voiced by one dude?
Yeah, I don't know his name.
He's it's LaFontaine, Don LaFontaine, but he was in this game. I just can't figure out in what capacity. Like if he's actually King Ramses or not. My point being, I wonder if
They took
the
the
audio
original.
was yeah, and because he's dead now, he's been dead for quite a while. That it was like, well, we can only do the best.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe, right? But
yeah.
yeah, that's like the only thing. I think at some point you're going to be relying on the guy because you just can't tell like what he's saying. And I don't think he's a bad guy. I think like if you can hear and listen to to the direction, I think you get a decent sense of where to go. Like if you don't get it the first try, I think second try you get it.
Yeah, probably. Because he changes a little bit. It's not much different, but I don't know. I remember going to him and listening to him, and I was like, what? And I like left, went, came back, and I feel like it was maybe he says the same things over and over again. Um, Other sound design stuff though, I think the guns all sound cool. I did
Yes.
think that like the difference between sound and sound effects happening underwater was really, really well done. I always love like you talked about this era of like movement in a game and like the way that the game looks and kind of feels and flows, but also these types of games bring a very specific sound thing that I
Mm.
love where it's just like there's one canned effect for when you take damage that like and when you take damage it's just like love that a lot, especially when you're like drowning or something and you're trying to jump out just like over and over again. Perfect.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, there is something good to that.
Did you I love to drown, you know, that's me.
That's
Did
what
you
Sonic
enjoy
said.
PowerSlave Exhumed? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I think this is a really good game.
Were you surprised? Did you think it was going to be bad?
I didn't think it was gonna be bad. I just didn't. again, I was like between with me being between Hexed and PowerSlave, they're both kind of in like this. I guess Hex is more fantasy and spell based than this. This is more like ancient Egypt with guns to some degree.
Yeah.
Um, I was hesitant about either one of those aesthetics compared to like Doom. Um, so I was like when I made the decision on PowerSlave, my biggest concern was would the aesthetic get in the way of my experience? And I can honestly say, besides the voice of Ramses, no, it did not.
Good, good. Yeah, I agree, dude. I think this was solid. I like, again, a lot of the stuff you added to the list this year, especially the things I've not heard of before, made me like, is this gonna be good? You know what I mean? Like a little like I've never heard of this. Like,
Walk Revenge, a dish well served. Finally.
yeah, exactly, right? But like not like is this gonna be good? Does Matt know what he's talking about? I don't mean it like
No, no,
that,
no,
but just
no.
like
I know exactly
and
what you're
all
saying.
like I've never heard of this. I have no idea what expectations are. You know what I mean? Like with Mortal Kombat mythologies, I knew kind of what we were walking into. With Metroid Other M, I've played it, so it's different. But like with Anthem coming up in a couple weeks, I knew what we were walking into for the most part, right? Like whether or not I was surprised, stay tuned and find out. But like with this, no expectations. So it just I was very pleasantly surprised. Um and it's I don't know, it was like a fun I like the day I beat it, I remember feeling like sad I wasn't gonna have more Power Slave to play. Because I
Well,
like
or
looked
do
forward to it.
or do you? Did you get the bad or good ending?
Yeah, thank you. I meant to ask that question earlier. I got the bad ending. How
Me
about
too.
you?
Me too.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's where like the secret stuff comes in, like having to
yeah.
really like with the fine tooth comb go through the levels and find those power ups or whatever. But yeah, I guess there is technically more power slave for us to discover.
Yeah, there were definitely there were transmitters I found. There were some that I found died, didn't get the checkpoint, and was too
Ah,
impatient to go back and get again. There were others where like I heard the beeping and I was like, "Oh, I know what I have to do that, but I'm not gonna do it." You know what I mean? Like it was like a little bit extra or whatever. Like,
yeah, that's kind of how I approached the game. I was just like, kind of like, I'm gonna go forward. If I see one, I'll try to get it. But like at the end of the day, I kind of they were like the Riddler puzzles
yeah,
for me and Batman. Like I'll give it a college attempt until I'm like, all right, I'm moving on until I really want 100% this game.
yep, yep, exactly. What was your favorite part of the game?
Oh God, I don't know honestly. I think this is like a solid all around game. I think despite the guns and that probably being the main thing, I kind of like the weird weapons you get. Like
Yeah,
how useful or useless they are, I think is to be determined depending on your play style. But like I thought the rings were cool, man. Like
they were rad.
um, they were cool for those crowded areas in a tight space. Um, but no, I like again I for ancient Egypt, again concerned about the environment, or that's not usually my cup of tea. I ended up liking it to an extent. I think the enemies are, they're well appropriate. I think like the titular enemy is as intimidating as it looks on the cover. I never once felt comfortable in an encounter with them, which is cool.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I know Karnak becomes like the center of all the Metroidvania stuff for the most part, but like I didn't mind exploring Karnak the first few times to see kind of what's going on there. Yeah, there's not. I don't think there's like that one thing I'm gonna pick out where it's like that's Power Slave, but
mm.
I think it's just like a well around, a well all around put together game.
I really liked. Not that this was like a oh, this was my favorite, but the thing I wrote down that I like really liked was the mid game. I guess it's mid game boss fight against Set. The music in Set's arena is so good. but set that fight. It's not like a even like a crazy fight. It's just sort of like the first boss fight you have, just this first kind of like encounter where you're like, I don't know, it just changes up the core of what your task is. Because most of the game's task is find the exit. This was kill the thing, you know? Um,
Is this the
and
one
you
where you
weren't leaving
drop
until
down?
you
You're like
did.
in this like arena. Uh,
Yep,
okay,
exactly.
all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. That was cool. I think the death sequence was cool. I really had a good time with that one. When we scroll past this game on the list in 6 months, what will you remember?
I think it's gonna be the, I you know, these are Doom clones for a reason. I think just like Doom, it's the term jacuzzi, right? Jacuzzi was the name brand that made a hot tub popular, right? And it just gets that
Mm.
name. I think Doom kind of just has that same thing with this genre. But this is the one that was a Metroidvania and it was cool because of it.
Yeah, I think that sets this apart and will always. Yeah. I think I just will remember the surprise of this, of just having like
Mm.
no expectation and not knowing what I was even walking into, to being like, this game really, really, really rules. Um, and I'm so shocked. Like, it's kind of scary that I don't know. Like, not that I know everything. I don't mean that, but just like, I feel like most. I don't know. You throw a game in front of me, like out barring like the never-ending library of Steam releases each week and itch stuff. Like when you go backwards like this, like I got a pretty good knowledge of these things. Nothing. Never heard of it in my entire life. Um, so yeah, I wonder what else is out there awaiting me.
I hope I
Um,
can maintain this momentum. Maybe I should have put this one last.
no, I'm looking forward. You got some cool stuff on the list. 2025 is looking good. What I don't know. We kind of have answered a lot of these other questions I have written down here. Um, I think we rank it. What do you think? Anything we didn't hit that you wanted to cover or talk about?
No, yeah, I kind of again, I didn't really take a lot of notes. I think that so some that I think that's just the thing when I say that out loud. Maybe if you haven't figured it out, or the listener or viewer, like sometimes when I don't take notes or as many notes as I usually, it's because I'm having too much fun. I don't stop to actually record stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get better with that. But this is one of those games where I was like level to level to level to level. I was like, oh, this was a thing that stood out in that moment. I was like, oh, I'll jot that down. And by the time I'm done, I'm like looking, I'm like, there's not a lot here. So I'll need a Wikipedia page when we come to talk about it, but like that's fine.
Um, well, let's rank it. Let's see where it falls. Listener, viewer, you can check out the list over at thefreecheese.com/the list, where we rank all these video games we play. Um, I I dig this one quite a bit.
I do too.
And here's what I did, just for the record. I scrolled up a little bit and just sort of like stopped, not for any reason. I just like started scrolling and realized I needed to like pay attention to the camera or something. But looking at this, I see a game that I call Daikatana,
Mm,
and I'm like, okay, I like this way better than Daikatana.
sure do.
So I keep going. And I hit like I have no mouth and I must scream.
Where
And
where's
sorry,
Daikatana?
Daikatana is 83.
83.
I
Okay.
have no mouth and I must scream is 73.
Okay.
I like this better than that.
Yep.
I like this better than Windjammers. I love Jet Grind for the style, but and this might be where I'm starting to peter out on climbing the list. What do you think?
Ooh. Okay.
I'm in the Mario Kart Jet Grind Windjammer Snatcher area.
I might be higher. but that let me see, because I
I'm
was
definitely this is our fun of the list, right?
right. New
When
strategy.
you
There's
climb
5 up, 5 down. Does it make sense in
five
relative?
up, 5 down, but then like 20 up, and then you know what I mean? Like you
Oh yeah,
you have
because
a
the outliers. Yeah.
exactly.
Um, for the viewer, I'm not. I'm scroll. I'm just trying to find games where games are at that I know of and
Yeah.
are good direct comparisons. So you kind of stopped around like 68, right?
Yep.
60.
67, 68, 69, 70, somewhere in that like that range.
Yeah, I think I can definitively go up to Mass Effect 2 and feel good about everything. It went above. I know.
Above Mass Effect, but below uh Glaylancer? Or are you saying below Mass
I
Effect
think
above Bully?
I think the Mass Effect 2 is the first game that I'm looking at from your thing that I'm like, let's talk about it for the first time.
Yeah.
I personally like all this stuff better than X-Men 2, Demi Kids, Bomber, this whole stretch. It definitely is
I'm
better than
yeah,
Mario Kart. I'm at least bumping it that
yeah.
far if we're staying down there. Um, I think Outrun's the perfect pick up and play game, but I think I would rather play PowerSlave in terms of I don't know. This is where it gets weird, right? Like we get totally different
Yeah,
genres.
yeah.
Um, oh
But you're right. I like this over X-Men. I like this over Demi Kids. I like this over Bully. But do I like it more than Mass Effect 2? I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, I think I can definitively. I think I could go up a couple more places, but I think I definitively stop right at the mess of the mid 50s of Metal Gear, Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I have an internal struggle with SSX Tricky. I think my like ceiling is in that mix somewhere. So, want to? I could meet you. That would kind of put us halfway around Mass Effect. Did you want to go right underneath of it? The
Under Mass
new.
Effect, I'm good climbing above it.
Oh,
Like we
okay.
can keep going. Yeah, if you're feeling,
Well,
yeah,
you just put it right above new number 60. I think that would be our middle ground of like I was kind of
yeah,
in the high to mid 50s. You were kind of mid 60s, right? Yeah, right at 60.
good for me. Power Slave Exhumed, new 60.
So I think this would end up being one of my higher ranked games down this low, but that's fine. That's what the list is for. It's what we score for as well.
I've got some nonsense down. I mean, NBA Street is like right above it, and I've got that at a 9.1. So
What are you gonna do, right?
yeah,
Make a new
no,
list.
yeah, one day, or if you want to, you can do it. Let us know what your list is. Actually, you can do that every year. We put that together on the website. Go check out our season 12 finale for all the voting on that. Yeah. Well, that is Power Slave Exhumed. And that's episode 595. Next week, we're taking a break from the list to talk about influential soundtracks in video games, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. I mean, we'll be back next week, just not with a specific video game. But we'll be back to the list in 2 weeks to discuss Anthem, the 2019 hit video game that never got the chance it deserved.
Hit
It hit
triple
something.
this triple A budgets.
It hit. Uh,
Oh, I'm
it hit our
not
hearts.
pre-reviewing a game here. I'm just saying I don't know if hit is the correct term for a game that
Oh,
did
I mean,
not
yeah.
sell that
There's
well.
a reason why it ended the way it did. So stay tuned for that. If you've got some favorite soundtracks or things that you felt were influential, email us podcast@thefreecheese.com. You can, of course, comment on the video or the web page for this podcast,
Let
whatever is easiest for
us. I
you.
was gonna say also let us know if you're an idiot. If you're Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, whatever streaming platform. If you're an idiot and your rap is just OSTs from soundtracks, let us know what they are.
Oh,
I
that's
I fall
good.
into that category. Last year I did, so
Oh yeah,
we'll
that's
talk
good. We
about
should
that.
make sure we talk about that. I want to hear what ended up there. I don't know if I had video game stuff hit my wrapped thing or whatever it was. Good call. So yeah, we'll see you next week for that. 2 weeks for Anthem, and then just 1 week after that, we're closing winter out with our first episode discussing Animal Crossing. Of course, in our 4-part series throughout the year. Until then, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener. Thank you, viewer. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Bye.